Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of King's Tales, the podcast series where we help you turn trauma into triumph. And on today's episode, I have a very special guest joining me, all the way from Maryland. I will allow him the opportunity to introduce himself right now.
Good afternoon. My name is Mark Berry, and I am currently an educator. I work at Chesapeake College in Wine Mills, Maryland. I serve as a director of Trio Upward Bound. For those who don't know, Trio Upward Bound is a federally funded program from the U.S. Department of Education that provides holistic college and career readiness experiences for students to prepare them to, one, graduate from high school and then enroll in post-secondary education and be successful. I also am a member of the greatest fraternity known to man, Phi Beta Sigma Fraternity Incorporated, where I am currently the State Deputy Director of Collegiate Affairs. It is a pleasure to be here with you this afternoon.
Thanks for making time out of your very special, very busy schedule, Mr. Berry.
Definitely. It's all good.
I definitely am honored to have you here on today, and to actually do this in person because last time we tried it didn't come out well. So this is part two. So without any further ado, let's get right into it. So with working currently in higher education, was that something that you always wanted to do? Were you like an undergrad and be like, oh, I'm going to work in higher education and work directly with students?
Not at all. So, like, when I first decided to go to college, well, let's back up. When I was a child, the one thing that I wanted to do, I knew I wanted to, be an educator. So initially, I thought, I'm going to go to school and I'm going to major in elementary education. And I initially thought about, becoming a kindergarten teacher. But after having a little brother for some time, and helping my mom out with him, I was like, maybe kindergarten is not where I really want to be. So I decided that I knew I wanted to help people. So I decided to go to school for human resources because I wanted to be able to use my voice to, empower and advocate. So I knew that that's the route that I wanted to go. So I went to Goldie Beacom College in Wilmington, Delaware, and decided that during that time I was going to need a job to be able to help circumvent some of the bill pay for college, tuition, and all of that. So worked in the student affairs office behind the front desk, just answering phones and filing papers, helping students make their student IDs, helping out with student activities, and was like, okay, this kind of fun. Applied to become a resident assistant in the residence halls my sophomore year, and was a resident assistant every year after that. And then from that point on, I was like, wait, this, advocating for students and helping them navigate the college process and, helping them, understand and realize things about themselves. I was like, wait, I can do this for the rest of my life. Let's go down that path. So graduated with my undergrad. I was hired to be the first ever graduate resident assistant at Goldie Beacom, where they gave me a free master's degree, a place to stay, paid for laundry, paid for food, you name it. God opened that door and just it happened. And from there, a career opened up when I graduated with my first master's, and then I was able to get a second one for free.
Wow.
And just kind of continued on my higher education journey to be where I am now. And I have loved every minute of it. Hasn't always been easy, but I've definitely loved every minute of the experience.
Wow, that's amazing. And audience, part of the reason why I asked him that is because he did mention the master's degree, but he didn't master what he specialized in. He has 2 masters of business administration degrees. So, like, honestly, I was looking at that. I was like, whoa, Mr. Berry, why would you want to work in higher education if you already have 2 masters of business administration?
I mean, it's always been a passion for me. And I think it was because when I was younger, I never saw someone that looked like me. It wasn't. I didn't have a black male educator. I barely had black female educators when I was in, elementary, middle, and high. Like K through 12, I didn't have that. Even in college, we barely had that. We had maybe 1 or 2 black instructors at Goldie Beacom, and I barely took classes with them because they weren't in my major. Like, I was a human resource major. And I think one of the black professors was an accounting. She was an accounting professor. And the other one I believe was just at nighttime for graduate school, and I wasn't at that point yet. But there wasn't anybody that looked like me, so I wanted to be able to go into the field to be that for someone else, so that way when a student came and they couldn't really find someone to connect to, and they were, they felt like they were a minority, they could look, to me, or someone like me, that they so that they could get that push or that assistance or that encouragement, whatever they felt like they needed in that moment. So I wanted to be that for other people.
Okay. Yeah, that definitely makes sense. And I think one thing that I love about your story is you identified an area where there was a shortage or a problem or an issue, and you were able to essentially utilize your experiences in undergrad to realize, okay, there's a shortage of representation in this field.
Most definitely.
And you stepped up to the plate, you stepped out on faith. And Lord and behold, you're still here, what, 10 plus years later?
More than 10 years. I think we're at, if you count undergrad, I think we're at like almost 16, 17. Wow.
That's a long time.
It's been a long time.
A long road coming. You still standing. I mean,
still
that's a testament to, obviously your faith and your relationship with God, but also to your resilience. So
thank you.
Continue to be a leading voice of representation for these young Black and men of color that need to see this representation.
Most definitely.
Because at the end of the day, like you said, education is one of those fields where we're extremely underrepresented, and it can be very difficult to be in these spaces and not have anyone that you feel like you can confide in.
Exactly.
So
exactly. And I appreciate that.
Of course. So just based off of again looking at your biography, your resume, you have primarily been working at politically white institutions. So given the environment, and as someone personally who has attended a PWI, which was at the time a MSI, minority serving institution. Technically. Culturally.
We just didn't have the proper paperwork submitted, but it definitely was.
It really was. Like the population was there, but the representation at times wasn't.
Right.
So just speaking from experience, how were you better able to navigate that, knowing your experiences in the past, both working in higher education, but also being that young Black boy growing up in those places and those classes and not having that representation? How did you navigate that?
It was definitely difficult to navigate that experience. You have to be strategic in your in what you do, what you say, in the meetings that you sit at, because you don't always get the opportunity to sit at certain tables when you look like me, you look like us.
Right.
You don't always have that opportunity to to speak up. You're not always called on in some of those spaces. Sometimes you are at that table because you're Black. Just being honest. Sometimes that's the only reason why you're there. So you have to make use of the time that you are there. And when you're not there, you have to do a good job on the back end. And I think for me, it was hard to do that because if anyone that knows me knows that I am a bit outspoken.
Yes, very much so.
I am a bit outspoken, and it has taken me some time to learn how to bridle my tongue and not say certain things, even though I want to say them. But it's taken a lot of strategic thinking to be in those spaces. And I mean, even today, I still find myself sometimes at the table because I am a Black man, that's an educated Black man. And sometimes even today, I still have to bridle my tongue. So it is difficult to kind of navigate. But I think that comes with, with maturity and with learning, yourself and learning the environment that you're in. And I think once you know the environment and the culture, and once you know yourself, I think those two things will better help prepare you for for that type of work if you're in that type of environment.
Very well said. Very well said. I want to double back to something that you mentioned, having to bridle your tongue, being the outspoken person, especially in spaces where you'll be labeled as the hyper aggressive Black man, or yes, you're trying to bully someone or coerce someone to, give you the outcome that you want. how did you, obviously it's something that you have to experience in order to learn how to navigate,
Definitely.
especially working in the field that you're in. How were you able to, I guess, learn when to speak and when it was time to, just strategize?
Whew, that's a. I feel like I'm still learning this today. That's the thing.
Mm,
But I feel like I'm a lot better with it.
okay.
And I think that for me personally, I learned myself. So I learned my triggers, and I learned what microaggressions made me angry. I learned what actions that people might do made me would make me upset. And I do my best to suppress them when it happens. I have to remember why I'm there, who I'm there for, because I'm not just there for me.
Right.
I'm at this table for other people because there are other people that don't have a voice. There are other students, there are other staff members, there are other faculty members that don't have this opportunity, that don't have a voice. So I think that suppressing myself and my emotions and remembering why I'm there kind of helps with that whole process.
Knowing why you're doing it.
Exactly. It's all about the people you're serving. And I consider myself a transformative servant leader, where I want to make change, where I want to make an impact. And in order for me to do that, I have to, push that part aside, push those feelings aside from those microaggressions, and be there for those people who don't have that opportunity.
Absolutely. And also feel like sometimes, we're not fully prepared to step into those realms
No.
and see those things.
Not at all.
I remember my first, I guess, and I won't even say it was my first big boy job because I was still in undergrad, but I remember I was working at a local corporation, and my direct supervisor was a older white man, and already at the time I had a really tough time with men just based off of some of the experiences that I had with my dad in my latter years, my latter teenage years. But he had said something to me that, and I didn't know it at the time, but it triggered me. And we were talking on the phone, and it took everything in me not to read him to filth and cuss him to nothing.
Yes.
But fortunately enough, like I was able to bring myself back in and be like, all right, I mean, what's the point? You do that and then you're going to be out of a job.
And then what?
Yeah, right. You can't pay your bills.
Right.
And so like sometimes, and that's something that comes with maturity. Like once you get to a point, you realize, all right, I could do this, but what are the repercussions? Like, how is it going to affect me
Yes.
directly? And not just myself, but the people around me as well. Because when you're, paying bills to help with the family or to help pay for school, like, you have to take every decision into account.
Exactly.
So,
Definitely.
yeah, that's professionalism. I feel is one of those things that isn't talked about enough, especially for men of color, given how we're portrayed in the media, given all the stereotypes that have been conjured up about us over the years. You can't have your hair a certain way. You can't have piercings. You can't have tattoos.
No, you cannot.
And, you can't talk a certain way because then it's going to be perceived by others a certain way. So it really can be challenging navigating. But you sitting here today, you and me both sitting here today is a testament to it's possible. You just have to go out there and do the work. And I understand yourself.
Yes.
Identify your triggers.
Exactly. And I think that's the biggest part. It's just knowing, you got to know yourself throughout this whole entire process. Like, you have to know what makes you tick, what makes you angry, so that you can work on learning how to suppress it. And it's okay to get mad after you get out of that situation, because I've had plenty of times where I've called my sister and been like, let me tell you something. Let me tell you what really happened to me at work today.
Right.
And been upset over it. But in that moment, I had to, remove myself from the situation and just remember why I'm there. And that's literally for me, being the type, like I mentioned earlier, just being the type of person that I am. That's really what I hold on to, is just, hey, you are not at this table for you. You are a representation of other people.
Yeah. Very true. Very true.
It's the reality.
I remember when I was going through RA trainings, which by the way, little fun Easter egg. My very first encounter with residence life directors or whatever was Mr. Berry. My freshman year at the college that I was attending for undergrad, it was his first year working there,
Yep.
and we had a time. I mean, we had a time. That hall was a mess, but
There was always something going on.
I mean, every week there was something going on. People fighting, you know, trespassing situations, a whole bunch of nonsense. We can go on days and days for it, but that's not what we're here.
No words.
But one of the analogies that always stuck out to me, even after my first year of doing like RA training, was you're constantly living in a fishbowl,
Always.
and you don't know who's looking at you,
Nope.
what they're saying, if they're recording you, if they're documenting everything that you're doing. Like you're literally have to walk. You have to walk circumspectively,
Yes,
and
you do.
it's something that really didn't click for me until I want to say like going into my third year of being an RA, when I joined. I became a member of Phi Beta Sigma Fraternity Incorporated, and I was going out every weekend and doing certain things and hanging around certain people, and I remember one day one of my residents came up to me and they were like, "Hey man, you know, I really do look up to you. You're a huge inspiration for me, but like some of the stuff that you've been doing recently hasn't been very reflective of who you have portrayed yourself to be." And I had to take a step back and be like, "Oh wow," because it's one thing to do this stuff, but when someone's I don't even want to say apprehending you, but when someone's holding you accountable, convicting you, yeah,
That's
exactly.
a better way to put it.
That's a very good vocabulary word. Yeah, so sometimes you just gotta take a step back and we're like, oh man, I gotta get my stuff together.
and and that's okay. Like I feel like that's a warning for you to be like, all right, this is not who I am. Let me regroup and get on the right path. And there's nothing wrong with that. It is nothing wrong with a regroup. Everybody needs one every so often. There's nothing wrong with taking some time to do some self-reflection, to learn what makes you tick, what makes you angry, to learn what could potentially set you off in those all white spaces, so that way you'll know how to maneuver and master it. There's nothing wrong with doing some self-reflection and doing that. I mean, I do that at least once a year. Just taking a step back, reading a leadership book, figuring out what I need to improve on as a leader. Because now I'm a supervisor. So my first year, I've only been a supervisor for 5 months of full time people. So taking a step back and making sure that I'm being, available for them, and I'm available for myself, and I'm available for my students, my high school students now, because it's first time working with high school students as well.
Sheesh.
It's been interesting. But just taking that time to do that self reflection, because it's necessary. It's definitely necessary.
100%. And I think this is something that I have learned, I would say just as recent as this past year. Like, the greatest thing that you can have for yourself, it's not money, it's not, materialistic things, it's self-awareness. And the more self-aware you are of yourself, what upsets you, what makes you happy, what drives you, then like who can hurt you? Like who can come against you? Like, and that is something that like now I'm at a place where like, even if people wrong me or they do like things that I don't agree with, I'm just like, it is what it is. I'm gonna just wipe my hands of it, move away,
Yep.
and do what I got to do on my part, because I can't control the thoughts, feelings, or actions of others. I can just control my own.
And your peace matters more. And at the end of the day, your peace about what has taken place. So if you act out of character, you're not gonna have peace with that situation at all. You cannot. There's no way. I'm gonna tell you, there's no way. So your peace in the situation matters more. Yes, you are self-reflecting and all of that good, but you also want to make sure that you keep that part. Peace is big.
Absolutely. And I guess to follow up to that, you mentioned earlier about the importance of having the right people in your circle. And sometimes if we're not careful, we'll find ourselves in environments or in circles of familiarity of what it is that we know. And actually though, it's so crazy talking about this, because the message yesterday in church was making decisions to separate yourself from similarities or familiarities.
Yep.
So, could you go a little bit, deeper into how you got to be in a place where you were surrounded by the right kind of support that you needed at the space that you were in?
Oh yeah. So I think the first thing is, like we just talked about, like you have to know yourself. You have to know yourself, and if you surround yourself with those like-minded people, they'll most certainly help you to become who you want to become. Um, I'm not trying to go biblical here, but
Hey,
that's the only thing I know. And
if
I
it's
did
how
just
it's your
read
if
church.
it's how you're led.
The word tells us that bad associations spoil useful habits. If you know who you are and you are surrounding yourself with people who aren't like you, you're going to become that. If it doesn't fit in, if they don't fit in with your values, if they don't fit in with your personal mission, and you're around them, you're going to become that. You're going to adopt those things. And if you want to, be a successful black man, you need to stay true to yourself. And that just is what it is.
Yeah.
And so it's hard to separate yourself from, those people that aren't don't have your best interests at heart.
Yeah.
And I think that that's because, you yourself, you want people to like you. And it's definitely hard to, not succumb to peer pressure and all that kind of stuff. But it's about staying true to you.
Yeah.
And once I learned who I was as a black man, as an educator, once I got comfortable in that, getting rid of those people that, might not fit in with my mission, my personal goals, the people that aren't pushing me, you gotta go. And that's just plain and simple. And I'm happy now with my small circle of friends.
Right.
Very
right.
small circle of friends. It's real.
He's not lying, yo.
No,
it's a
not.
very small circle of friends.
It's a very small circle. Like, and I mean, and they are like with me literally every step of the way. Right now through this doctoral journey in grad school, because I want to quit every day. Just being honest. Just being honest, I want to quit every day. Just because it's a lot going to school, working full time, having a state board position in a fraternity. So they push me every single day, literally. I was talking to my sister the other day, and she was like, "What you doing?" I said, "Homework." She said, "Oh, get it done because we getting this degree." And I was just like, "Okay, girl."
Okay.
I've been doing this since yesterday, but all right. But it gets difficult. So having those people that can push you and that are going to be able to, help you accomplish your dreams and your goals. And that's literally what my circle does for me.
See, it's so important to have the right people in your circle.
You got to.
You never know what your friends are going through, what they've been dealing with. So having the right people that can not only support you and uplift you, but I think more recently for me, like being in a place where, I've grown to develop my relationship with God and get a little bit closer to him. Like I am in a place now where I'm learning the importance of prayer. Like it really does give you the strength and the peace of mind necessary to continue to push through.
It does.
Cause I'm telling you, some days it'd be hard. I mean, you be going through persecution, trials and tribulations, people at your job acting crazy, your family acting crazy.
Yes.
And you're all in the midst of it. Like, all right, well, let me just pray before I kill somebody. Let me get it together.
Run over with your car. Like,
right.
It's real.
It's real. It's really real.
It is really real.
I mean, you got your own personal stuff going on around you, and then you look at what's going on in the world around you. You're like, it's enough to drive you crazy.
It is.
So, some days I just got to really take a step back where, like, I'll cut everything off. I won't get on Instagram. I won't get on Twitter. I won't go on YouTube or watch any of my shows. Like, I just have to lock in with God because some days that's all that I have is my relationship with him and the Word.
That's it. And some days, I'm going to be honest, for me personally, some days I can't even open my mouth for a prayer, just a traditional prayer, because it's just that heavy.
Mm-hmm.
So just having that quiet time in your secret place and just lifting your hands and just waving them, honestly, is just it. Just like the song says, I'll just wave my hand. That's literally me sometimes. Literally. Because that's all I got. God, I know you know my heart. I'm gonna just lift my hands because this is it.
That's it. I surrender.
That's
I
it.
surrender everything to you.
That's it.
Cause listen, I can't do it by myself, not no more.
Mm-mm.
And
Tried it, and it failed. Literally, I am a testimony of tried to do it my way, and it absolutely failed.
and I think for real, like I'm in a season of that right now, like where I'm learning I can't do things my way anymore. I can't do things on my time, and I'm on God's timing now. And I really do just have to take one step at a time, realize that I'm not in control, He is,
And
and
that is hard to grasp. It's hard. It's a hard concept to deal with. I was literally talking to one of our sorors the other day, and we were just talking about God's timing, and I'm just like, I don't know what to tell you. I said, I can't give you anything else other than that.
right,
And I said, if you haven't put a timestamp on that thing with him, that's it. Ain't nothing else I can tell you. His timing is perfect. It's something else that you got to learn through this process. It's something else that you got to pick up through this process. That's why it's taking the time.
right,
Or you prayed for something and you asked, God, I need patience. God, I need strength. Okay. He giving it to you.
right, through long suffering.
Exactly. So I don't know what else to tell you. These are the reasons why I can think of just from my knowledge and my teachings, and my studying. This is it. His timing is always perfect.
Always,
Always.
yeah. I'm telling you, and He'll always put the perfect people right in your circle, right when you need them.
Every time.
Wow. You know what?
And no matter what you go through, because I can tell you my circle, me and my circle, we done had it. People have tried to persecute us. People have tried to break us apart. We have tried to break each other apart. But I can tell you, we are as strong as we were the first day that God joined us together. Literally.
Wow. Well, I don't know if we keep on diving deeper, I might start speaking in tongues. So let's
you'll see me fall out the frame.
But yeah, I feel like you've dropped a lot of really good gems, Mr. Berry, on today. But if you had one piece of advice or a tip for any young man of color, young black man, young black boy that's tuning in, and may not necessarily want to be in higher education or healthcare, what would you tell them on their journey through life?
Take up space. Everything that you have the opportunity to do it. Anytime you have the opportunity to represent yourself, to represent your family, to represent other men of color, do it. And advocate. Speak up for yourself. If something that isn't going the way that you want it to go, or it's not going the way it should go, or you're having trouble in your community, you're having trouble on your job, speak up, advocate, because I'm quite certain that there are other people that are experiencing the same thing. So take up spaces at those tables that we weren't supposed to be sitting at in the first place. You get the opportunity, sit down at it. Speak up. Say what you got to say. And unapologetically, don't be mad at it. Because I can tell you now, I'm definitely a testament of all of that.
And okay, I mean, I've witnessed some of it, not all of it. And I can tell you that Mr. Berry is a soldier, a warrior. Like, some stuff comes at him, and some days during undergrad, I would look at him and be like, I don't know how you still function right now, for real, because I would have been mad, cussed out somebody, tried to fight, tried to hit him with my car, and
that's all I can say, because that's literally it. To God be the glory.
And so, honestly, like our mantra at King's Tales is transforming trauma into triumph, and you are literally a walking testament of that. And so I commend you. I thank you for being in the right places and spaces at the time that you were. It definitely had a positive impact in my life and countless lives of other people who may not admit it.
I'm a softie. Don't have me on here crying.
Countless other people who may not admit it, but you have made an impact on their lives. And so I thank you for being here on today. Thank you for sharing your story, your testimony, a little bit of your area of expertise.
Yeah.
And, if you guys ever want to connect with Mr. Berry, he is on Instagram primarily at Marked for Success, MARKED, the number 4, success. And you could connect with him if you ever need help with, higher education, anything related to higher education, he's got you. So that pretty much wraps up today's episode. I want to thank everyone for tuning in. My name is Rex Shege. I am the host and founder of King's Tales. This is Mr. Mark Berry. Thank you for joining me again. Whole lot of mob stuff, man. Y'all already know what's going on, man. But that wraps up today's episode. I thank y'all once again for tuning in. Have a wonderful, blessed week, and I will see you all soon.